like that. I mean, the average age in Africa, I think, is 19 years old. Imagine the brain power that we could unlock if we were to get these people connected. And this is in Pakistan.
Hello, and thank you for joining our Fireside Chats with founders at the European Cardano community. I am Marcus, one of the core team members, and if you like what we are doing, please consider supporting our individual projects. You will find the links to our guests and our projects below the video. Please give us a thumbs up, follow us by hitting the bell icon, and let's enjoy this session.
Hello, welcome everybody to another edition of our Fireside Chat. We are the European Cardano community, and we are so glad to have you guys with us today. But something that we should mention before starting is that we are doing several different Twitter X Spaces in different languages. We have a common appointment with every 2 weeks with the Late Night Unicorns, with the guys of Promofesi, where we discuss marketing and new projects on Cardano and how they started and how they're going. And usually they are very fun conversation. Also, we have a German space that are regularly hosted. And Marcus, you can say something about it.
Every other week, it's called Unternehmerfrühstück. So basically the translation for that is entrepreneurial breakfast. It lasts only for half an hour. And we are discussing sharp, concise, and then we leave again. And sometimes it's getting not heated, but very passionate.
Very German.
Very German.
I'm American, right? And but my wife is like, she's like second generation or whatever, but she's like what 80 or 90% like German. We did a DNA test, and so yeah, I totally understand the German mindset and the mannerisms. Yeah, it's funny.
But very, very friendly. We are very friendly usually, but yeah, if we debate, it can get strong.
a passionate group of people.
Yes, absolutely, with humor.
And we would love to have even more passionate group of people that want to host spaces in other languages spoken in Europe. So if anybody has a friend that wants to talk about anything regarding Cardano, please have a chat with us, and we'll make it happen with a little bit of sponsorship until our rewards from Catalyst last. So I think I said everything important. Let's move on and present our fantastic guest. Today we start with Fairway.
And the way how we run this is instead of just pure presentation throughout the whole session, we have a 2 to 3 minutes introduction. And then we go through the guests. So you know who is in there, and then you hop into a conversation. Usually everybody will find a little hook to work with, and maybe find synergies to work together, talk about what is important to you, what have you learned along the journey, so we can help out other founders as well and help out each other here. So that's the purpose, and like visiting and meeting in a bar. Have fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcus. So Fairway, can you tell us about your project in a couple of minutes and see what you are building?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Henrik, co-founder and CEO of Fairway. Fairway is working for a global professional identity, or we are like an identity infrastructure. And currently, we've been focusing on professional identity, although we have some other plans for the future. We started our work in Ethiopia, where we've been doing under Catalyst some pilot projects. So we've been currently we have built our own platform on top of Identus, which is previously known as Atala Prism. So we have our own self-sovereign identity wallet. And we've done credential pilots with a couple of universities in Ethiopia. So we have the biggest partnership, the biggest tech university in the country, and others aligned. So basically issuing real graduates in the country, real proof of graduation credentials. We could do also work credentials or other similar things. So after that, we also currently working on a project which our goal is to be integrated into their new digital national ID, which is like very strong national ID system, better than most countries in Europe have currently, and to credentialize that for global employment. So that will help projects such as like business process outsourcing and also remote hiring and work-based immigration. So you could have businesses such as healthcare sector is one, like hospitals, they are hiring globally. There is a huge talent movement from Africa to Europe overall, and there's around 500,000 people that come across the borders yearly from Africa to Europe, and a portion of that is work-based immigration. And it's still quite difficult to track actually what's the background of those candidates that come from Africa. So what's their ID and what's their university degree, and it's quite simple when you credentialize it. So credentializing the national ID, it's a little bit like a mass KYC for people, and then having a university that can issue credentials. And yeah, based on that, we are also like discussing with, for example, with Finnish government for potential immigration-related pilots. There's students coming to study in Finland from Ethiopia. So yeah, that around that topic we've been building, and we learned quite a lot on how actually the institutions view this kind of technology and how to approach them in places such as Ethiopia or Africa. And we have quite a lot of plans also around open finance and different kind of financial applications around identity. So when you build, and we are working on Cardano, but also Midnight, and when you launch something that would be like utilizing blockchain in the future of, let's say, finance or business applications, the identity is quite a tricky part to hack, and many teams might be working on blockchain-based identity without like a proper identity wallet, like a self-sovereign identity. And we are here to help teams to also understand how like identity works, how could we combine that to blockchain applications, maybe using zero knowledge proofs, how to actually onboard institutions. So we have also a couple other initiatives going on around AI agents and supply chain and other things, but our first target market has been on professional identity. It's moving slowly but steadily. It's a long process to get the business going on that side, but quite a big potential if you get there. So that's our company. I'm happy to answer questions about it. It's quite short time to
we can come back, refer back with the questions after the introductions. So
yeah,
there's still plenty of time. We keep it within the hour, but usually that works. So next would be Apex, right?
Yeah, Apex Fusion is the next one. Interesting project and fusion about UTXO and AVM blockchain, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And for our friends in Europe, bonjour à tous et toutes. Todos, calamares todos. Let me try my languages out. I worked in Europe for about 10 or 15 years, mostly in France. I was chief commercial officer at IOG before starting Apex Fusion. We started this about 3 years ago. And it is exactly that. It's really a cross-chain play. So the way that we look at the world in crypto is that there's two main technologies. There's the UTXO side, of which Cardano is a prominent player. Of course, there's Bitcoin, Dogecoin, etc. And there's the EVM world where you have Ethereum and all the layer twos and all the copies and so forth. So we got together with a lot of the original team that built Cardano. So you see Chris is here. He's our head of delivery. You have Kareem here. He's our guy in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And we said there's basically these two big technologies that have their pros and their cons and their use cases. So UTXO is more secure, generally speaking, it's more deterministic, parallel processing, everything that we know coming from Cardano that's not broadly known outside. We know there's a lot of use cases. Probably digital IDs is a great example of one that makes a lot more sense on UTXO than it does on EVM, right? So we said we have this column over here. So what we've done is we reused the code of Cardano, and we did it in a novel way. The settlement layer is, I think, the best in class in our industry. Ouroboros, the settlement in Cardano, the staking system, native liquid staking, which wasn't solved on the EVM side. It's just best in class. So that's the first chain that we launched. It's called Prime. It's live. It's been live since February. It's already in a few exchanges already. And we've been using this time to build our stake pool operations. And we also offer an interesting yield to start things off. So it's 10% yield. And we've been working with stake pool operators and staking as a service providers and so forth to really decentralize the main network called Prime. And all it does is issue the token called Apex, and it does nothing else. There's no execution layer. There's no governance layer. It's a pure settlement layer. to secure the token called Apex. And then what that does, and again, it's native staking, which again, in Cardano land, everyone knows. Outside of Cardano, you need native staking derivatives to do that. It's really a superpower. The next thing that we've done is we said, okay, what's another big problem in the industry is that the layer 2s in the EVM world compete with the layer 1. So you got Cosmos that didn't do it right, where there is no value to Atom, the token. It's just a bunch of blockchains built with the same technology with no real purpose for the main chain. And you got Ethereum that added an execution layer and therefore competes with the layer 2s and trying to bring some of that back to layer 1. And it creates a bit of an unnecessary competition. So the layer 2s we're building, we're starting with two. One called Vector, which is again based on Cardano, which has an execution layer, but is faster and cheaper than Cardano. It's basically less decentralized, has less nodes, more trusted, and so forth. That solves the issue there. So we provide some scalability to that. And it's also an execution layer that uses the Apex token, but doesn't compete with the layer 1. The other chain that we've built that's coming out is called Nexus. So the group of people that we partnered with were the people behind Polygon Edge. So if you think of Cardano, Cardano has a phenomenal community, has done great technology, but is still behind the curve in terms of on-chain adoption, right? It has a large market cap, a lot of activity on centralized exchanges. Polygon is the exact reverse. They use Ethereum as their chain. They try to do some ZK things, have massive adoption in corporate, in enterprise, a lot of dApps, a lot of stablecoins, a lot of TVL, but don't have much market cap. So we feel these are the two best technologies within the UTXO and EVM world to marry together. That's what we did. We did it in terms of getting the teams together, the technologies together, and we also created a novel geographic structure. So I'm in charge of the labs. I'm the CEO of HAL 8. That's based in Abu Dhabi, which is a great ecosystem and regulatory landscape for crypto. We use Switzerland for the issuance of the token. We have a foundation with a 7-member council. It's not a decentralized governance, but it's decentralized in terms of the way the council's been formed and the way that we structured the deed to make sure that it actually deploys capital to the ecosystem. That's based in Switzerland. We even got a FINMA ruling that rules that Apex is a utility token, not a security, which is a big accomplishment for us. And we also have an entity in the United States that is dormant for now, but is waiting for the regulatory clarity from the US to start up there. So we've built it, it's coming out, Prime is out. And the big announcement, I guess, for the Cardano community is because our ethos is cross-chain, we're about taking the battle-tested tech. We're not about tribalism, it's all about collaboration. And we firmly believe in Metcalfe's law that 1 + 1 = 3, right? We don't feel it's competitive at all to Cardano. And in fact, to prove that, we're actually launching our token on Cardano in the coming weeks. A provider of ours that helped us build our internal bridging technology just on their own went ahead and built a bridge to Cardano. And so we're going to come out with our token in the next few weeks. We'll announce the date when we have a solid date to announce. And we could, people could start using it in the Cardano ecosystem. And then, if they so desire, it uses the same infrastructure. So you have your Eternal wallet, for example, or Jira wallet, for example. You could just click a dialog box, come over to our network at the beginning, generate more yield from a staking perspective. And as the other layer 2s come out, dApps can go cross-chain, and liquidity can then go cross-chain between the UTXO world and EVM world, more broadly speaking. So that's the plan. That's what we've done. We're really excited with the roadmap and a lot of things now.
Wonderful. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
it was a lot. Yeah.
Definitely got to rewatch it.
Yes, it's going to be interesting indeed. So yeah, Hoskilien, our friend. We have a wonderful chat last Sunday during the Late Night Unicorn show. So I'm happy to see your face finally.
Yeah, take it away, Gun. And I thought there's this American actor. What is his name again?
There are a few.
Yeah, probably. I'll come to it. I'll come to it. Get started.
Like one of the actors.
Tom Hardy.
Everybody said I look like Tom Hardy, but you look like Vin Diesel.
Yeah,
I heard that before. I heard that one before.
I've heard Tom Hardy a lot. My wife doesn't see it. She's like, I don't see it. But a lot of people say that. That's really funny. Because that like my whole life. Even when I was a kid, like I looked like young Tom Hardy also, but I don't know, whatever. But my name is Adam, Oceanic Goon. Many people know me because I got to fly on Charles Hoskinson's Black Hawk in a emergency situation. More than just flying around the Black Hawk, doing some pretty wild stuff, installing connectivity to a disconnected area through a major disaster through Hurricane Helene. I think it made world news. I mean, you're in the mountains, and if you're in Germany, you know mountains. Imagine where you get the beautiful mountains and you got a little creek. Well, imagine that creek turning up to 40, 50 feet up of flooding in the mountains. And a lot of these areas were affected like that. So when you have flooding in that aspect, though, the ground gets soiled real bad and things start falling. Things start failing, landslides, infrastructure, repeaters, towers, connectivity matters are just gone. And when you're in a situation like that, what is the most important thing is connection, being able to call for help. I mean, how are you going to call for help? You got no connection, right? There's no cell phone, there's no internet, there's no connectivity. But World Mobile's technology isn't contingent on legacy infrastructures, like normal Web 2 type of infrastructure. And so we were able to solve a connectivity issue in an area that had no connection. I mean, these people were hauling their needs via a mule and notepad. And then by the time it got to there's a bunch of supply hubs all over the place. And so by the time the information was relayed to the supply hubs, somebody else, like a good Samaritan, just got in their car and brought supplies to them and dropped it off. And so now they're having supplies that they received, and that mule is now getting back to the camp to relay, and then they send more supplies, and now they're inundated with supplies and nowhere to put it. Too many supplies, and there's a community maybe 20 minutes down the road that's got nothing, and so there's a large fallout of organization and response. And so we went and installed these air nodes throughout the western North Carolina mountains, and we started getting people connected, so they can call their family, call their friends, call their whoever, start relaying emergency needs a lot more effectively. And we were able to do that through World Mobile without normal infrastructure. Even CB radios were struggling, but we were able to get people connected. This spawned my mind just blew when I saw this connection, right? I mean, Jerry, you're talking about, with Apex, you're talking about getting all these people in there, but you can't do that without connectivity. If you don't have anybody connected, then what's the point, right? And so that's a huge, and same with Fairway, same with you. You need people connected to use their digital IDs, especially in Africa. And that's our test. That's like a big market for World Mobile. And so there's 2.6 billion people unconnected. And I don't like that. I mean, the average age in Africa, I think, is 19 years old. Imagine the brain power that we could unlock if we were to get these people connected. And this is in Pakistan, India, the Philippines. I mean, there's very, very smart people. When I travel overseas, I'm a part of some orphanages. When I travel overseas, these children, these young people are hungry, more hungry for education than anybody I've ever seen. They want to learn. That's what they thrive. That's what they want. And so with what I'm doing is I'm allowing, giving that opportunity for people to be connected. So I've partnered with World Mobile as an official distributor for Spark air nodes, and these are directly attacking those people that are the least connected in the world. So we're one of maybe 2 or 3 people in the world that are doing this World Mobile right now. We're the first, and we held a community-led sale recently. We sold almost 1,700 air nodes. We're World Mobile's first community-led sale on these things because their air nodes sell out within seconds. I mean, 8,000 air nodes gone by the click of a button, and they're just sold out. And so there's a large group of people that are not able to get access to the sharing economy. I'm solving that by being able to do this. I don't have a cap on how many air nodes I can order. I don't have a rushed sale. I can open my sale for 4 days or 3 days, and so people are able to kind of get involved. I don't, and we're able to fractionalize these air nodes also, so we don't have like a heavy bag bias. If you don't need to have heavy bags to get involved. You can have a minimum of like 50 ADA to get your fractionalized portion of these air nodes. So that way everybody can have a piece of the sharing economy and everybody can take part in building this global economy to get these people connected. So that way we can onboard these people to build Apex, to build Fairway, to build Hoskilien, to build Cardano, and the ecosystem as a whole. And we're not agnostic to Cardano. We're just building on Cardano. We're just like Apex. Like, I mean, we had a community on Radix chain. They bought a slew of air nodes for their community. So it's pretty incredible what we're doing.
Absolutely, you are Chad.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're one of the projects that's basically putting a lot of things together, right? And trying to make the ecosystem accessible even for the smaller bags, which is cool, which is really, really cool. And what you just said is something that I experience in my show fixes that I have every Monday with one of our Nigerian people, and we always break down. Like the connection always breaks down. And what we also experience is verification in Nigeria is a completely different beast, because you have, I think it was 6 different options to verify yourself. And if you use the traditional KYC providers, you will fail because they don't cover, for example, the Nigerian identity number. The slip is not being covered. So that's both incredibly interesting use cases. And with Apex, you're basically doing something that is cutting right into the beast. And what I was really curious about, because you just mentioned it, that you're a former IOG staff, and it seems to be that it's been a venture studio that has created so many spin-offs with so many bright minds, and you're just building and you're trying to connect. And the thing that strikes with me now is with Cosmos chain. So is it like, obviously to your opinion, is it dead? Because I know a particular SSI project checked that is working on a Cosmos sidechain, but as it sounds, to you it's like a silent starving or something like that.
No, sorry, maybe I misrepresented it. I think Cosmos is a very vibrant community. I think it's spawned a lot of blockchains that have created a lot of value, and it still does. It's almost like an SDK. It's a software development kit, and you build your own blockchain, and they're all interconnected. In fact, on our roadmap, ultimately, we will also connect to Cosmos because it's a great interconnection ecosystem. The problem was trying to highlight is the Atom token in the main chain itself, because they did such a great job in terms of the tech to replicate the tech. The main chain itself doesn't serve much purpose, right? The Atom chain itself. You use the technology to create new chains, but the Atom chain doesn't really provide
extra value.
So that's kind of the problem that we solve. But the interesting thing I see from this call, I'm not sure if you did it on purpose, is that you have the different stacks of value, right? So actually the one below all the people on this call is power, right? Like we take it for granted in the first world, let's call it, or the developed world rather, that we have power, right? So the first level is having power, and a lot of places don't even have that. And with Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, you can create business cases where you can actually provide power. The next layer on top of that is telco, right? And telecommunications, internet, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of places don't have that. So you've got World Mobile and Charles over here solving that problem. The next layer is the blockchain itself, right? Which is the problems that Cardano and everybody else solves. But then digital identity, especially decentralized digital identity, with AI and everything, is going to be another piece of infrastructure that you're going to need in the stack to function properly. So it's funny that you put these people, all you need is like a Bitcoin miner on this call, and you got all the stacks that you actually need to provide, a developed world economy, basically, right? So this is really, really great, and love to reach out to Henrik and to Charles after this to discuss collaboration. I worked when I was chief commercial. I was working with the Ethiopian government, and I was also working with World Mobile, and we had a lot of use cases we were looking at in terms of that. It's just the technology wasn't there yet, but it's getting there, right? And the connectivity layer is what multiplies our space by a factor of 10. The faster the internet speeds become, the more performant blockchains become as well. So it's very, very interesting, the group of people you put together here.
Thank you. I'm happy that everybody said yes. So we're going to have a great space soon too. It's going to be an impact space, but this is the technology impact, and I'm looking forward to it. And Adam will be on the other one as well, so really looking forward to that. And John from Empower, he also is exactly has been pointing that out, what you just said, with the missing energy block that you have to work with as well. So yeah, absolutely. Henrik, how is it about UDI? Are you involved in the development? I usually take part in the sessions there, because it's currently a quite interesting status if where we at, because the general gist is currently like kill the phone home problem. And what's your take on that?
Can you rephrase, like, connection to, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with
EUDI.
yeah.
Identity wallet.
So what's our question related to EUDI?
And the issue is here that most SSI experts are pointing out we should try to eliminate every phone home issue. That means that you as an identity provider are able usually to track the Einsatz, the use of your credentials. Right? Yeah. For example, in the US, you use the driver's license, and that is becoming an issue, because if you connect the dots, then I know exactly where Adam has been over the last 3 months, right? And then I can create a profile. Is that something that is on your map already, or are you working it out?
Not exactly. It's the whole everything is quite tricky, because like it's in some ways it's amazing that the EU is building good infrastructure, better than that has been, but then it's also not following exactly our crypto ethos, that what we would like to see. And also we are discussing with Finnish government on many things. Like Finland used to have the most advanced national ID. I think that there is, until Estonia took over with their like digital systems. We've had it for a long time, and it's a good system. But then if you discuss with these people, they might not be that interested to integrate with something that has a word blockchain in it, or they list like a data protection problems that, hey, are you storing data that could be like, now it's the issuer's problem if there's data on blockchain. So these systems like SSI and EUD are not directly compatible to each other, and I'm interested to see what will be happening in the coming years. I would have hoped to see stronger lobbying from the side of the whole crypto ecosystem in EU, because it seems like in the US they are more successful in making the government understand maybe where the like ecosystem is going, and like EU countries and governments are so strongly positioned that their own thing, whatever they are building, is the best way of doing things. Like the recent, bottle, the cork thing, like that. Yeah. This is the only way to build stuff, and anything else is a scam. And we will see what happens with that. What we are like trying to be is to be in between EU and Africa. So like, if you are bringing professionals. Currently, for our European businesses, there is no way to do it, and it doesn't matter if Europe has the best possible identity in the planet. The Ethiopian guy cannot access your identity in Europe. So I think there is also a market opportunity for anybody here in crypto or in the identity space, and maybe also in the financial things, to like forget about EU or forget about like let's create an identity in Ethiopia, but actually like how does the Ethiopian identity communicate with the EU identity? Because there is no interoperability between those. So maybe as a blockchain people, we should be focusing on building the rails between different existing systems instead of like trying to go there and change how the whole government ID system operates. And professional identity is one of the interesting use cases because there's professionals coming across the border, so they kind of need to be connecting to both systems. And with that idea and a job creation, you could be gaining access to EUDI and to Ethiopian systems at the same time because they both require it and they both benefit from it. Same with maybe supply chains. When you have stuff like coffee moving from Ethiopia to Europe, you have a bit of similar problems. And we are focusing on trying to find use cases where there would be a business value created from whatever we do that's kind of overrides whatever the government needs. Like that, it's just like the use case. Like Finland a year ago, there was 80 nurses that came from Ethiopia, and it was a big price paid by government contractors bringing those nurses in. And then some of them had faked their credentials, so the Helsinki City Hospital basically laid off all of them because they couldn't verify who are the real nurses, which was like a tragedy and probably costed millions for taxpayers and a big problem for those people as well. So you could be providing a solution for something like this, which is like, it doesn't matter if it's the EU standards or UD wallet standards, this is better. Like this actually solves a real problem for a business. The second thing that would comment is just the zero knowledge stuff. We are experimenting with Midnight currently, and I'm really interested to see if we actually can move away from, like you could have SSI or you could have EUD or you could have many different things, but then you could take those things and use ZK tools to connect them to blockchain. So you could have like a state in Midnight that states that my wallet is eligible and bridge that to Apex Fusion or Cardano, do some DeFi, and I would be using my EUD identity without anybody knowing it, but still like whitelisting stuff. So the ZK part is also, I think, some part of the solution. I hope I wasn't too confusing.
No, it's all good. Very
Yeah, very
good.
good.
And I think it was very clear.
Exactly, very interesting as well. Indeed.
And an
Thank
interesting
you.
part is that the UDI infrastructure is open to providers. So you can basically do whatever you want as long as you properly inject into the system. So I think the foundation here is pretty good. Just for those who don't know, an air node, what is it exactly and how does it work? Because in the video, it basically says you have the air node and then you combined it with Starlink, right? You amplified it, didn't you?
Yeah, so in the emergent situations, they are compatible with Starlink, and you can backhaul from the Starlink unit. So while all the excuse me, the stuff is out of control and not there, you can still connect to the satellites. It's just the Ethernet cable that goes from the Starlink straight into the air node. And so now, when you have a Starlink, you're only able to triangulate with like a certain amount of satellites. So it's constantly, doing that, trying to get that signal. Well, with the air nodes, I mean, we push that out like tremendously. So it's like, it's constantly getting coverage. This is the satellites. This is the air node, if that makes sense. So it reduces the amount of Starlinks needed in an area also because it can propulse. Now, not the Spark air nodes, but the portal air nodes, they can propulse that Starlink signal like 2 miles. Now line of sight and lack of any, block, you know what I mean? So you can turn the air node to position and push signal however is best set to the terrains. So we would look at the mountains and the valleys, and we would like position it to the creeks. The valleys kind of zigzag around, so we could get the maximum connections. And so now, instead of triangulating with just a few satellites, you're triangulating with a bunch. You can get rid of Starlink. So now latency is increased. It's decreased because you don't have so many people bogging down the network. The more people connecting to the same satellites, the more it's just like, it just starts getting slower and slower and slower. And then when we come in, people are able to start watching Netflix, Amazon movies through World Mobile Connection. And before they couldn't. That was pretty cool.
That's very fast. Before we,
but we're not.
sorry.
But we're not. But these units aren't like contingent on Starlink. So like we prefer these put into a fiber line at a home or a business. So you have stable and a strong fiber connection to really push that signal out. But in situations like this, get a Starlink, plug it into the node, and you're good to go in just a few minutes. I mean, we had one up and running, I think in like 40 minutes, something like that. That's pretty quick.
That's great. And Hoskilien itself, is it something that is tied to Cardano? Is it something that could work with Apex Fusion? Is that something like when I talk about, because you're the meme pin, right? Not the kingpin, but the meme pin. Is Apex Fusion, what are you guys looking for? I understand that you have the settlement layer Prime. What is the specifications for an SPO to start with? Are you on par with what we currently have with the Cardano node? Are you more going into the Pragma way? What's the type of thing that I, as a founder, would look at Apex Fusion and say, yeah, that's my use case?
I can give a few words, Jerry, and then jump in.
Yeah. And does it make sense for meme coins, for example, like Hoskilien?
See, I'll give you a sort of a bit of an overview. So, I'm Christopher, and my background was I was part of IOG in the early days, launching Byron, Reboot, Shelly, and leading the delivery there. So mainly with all of the technical guys there, led by Duncan Coutts from Well-Typed, and all of the other sort of key dev teams and stuff like that. And I was super impressed by the technology of Cardano and what the guys have done, right from the formal methods, verification, specs, right down through to the implementation. And it's an incredible protocol as well, Ouroboros, consensus proof of stake protocol. So always super interested in that. And when we came together as Apex Fusion, and this is also an interesting question when we get asked, so what are you guys doing different? And we basically say, well, nothing in that sense, because nothing in one sense, but everything in another. Nothing in the sense that we're not needing to rewrite the technology. This is battle-tested, proven tech, which has incredible value, incredible use. Look how long Cardano has been running stably with barely any issue, and just development after development increasing it. And so when you look at a protocol that you want to create an ecosystem that's decentralized, that's run by independent entities. So now we've got over 280 stake pool operators. There's nothing better than Ouroboros proof of stake, and there's nothing better than liquid native staking. I mean, in the Ethereum side, they really don't understand this, because their staking is all about locking ETH to a protocol. So when we were at the Staking Rewards Summit, we were more educating people on the power of the tech, the power of Cardano, because when you show from the wallet, I can delegate to an SPO, I'll get my rewards, and even if I move my funds, the protocol will catch everything up. They were blown away. So for people who from say Cardano and coming to Apex, the stake pool function is exactly the same. Spinning up the node is the same, the technology is the same, the process is the same, and that's why you've got many SPOs in Cardano also running SPOs on Apex. The only thing that we've done different from that level of the sort of protocol is that we're not taking it to the next stages of, say, decentralized governance, because our governance sits with the foundation through the grants program, and we spent a hell of a lot of time and effort putting in place the regulatory framework, the right structure of like an independent council that can be changed at any point in time if they're going against the deeds and the constitution of the ecosystem. Hence why in Europe we've been classed with had a FINMA ruling, so that we're fully in alignment with MiCA classification as a utility token. So the stateful operations allowed us to decentralize. It's allowed us to achieve that classification. And the benefit of hindsight means that for us, everybody is valuable. And how do we make sure that everybody shares in the value of the ecosystem? And for the stateful operators, we've done that in this initial stage of tuning the rewards in a different way to Cardano. So for example, Cardano, you have a treasury. So a portion of the sort of, each epoch rewards will go towards the treasury, which will be used later. What we've done is we've geared it so much so that we're pushing for about 10% return on people's rewards a year for stake pool operators, so people can have their actual, actually have a good business from that. So at that level, it functions purely as a decentralization layer. Now you talked about meme coins and tokens and native tokens and that type of thing. What we've done is we want to keep the prime settlement layer as clean and neat as possible, so that's as performant as it can be, so that the Apex token is secured with value, that people stake and secure the network and decentralize it. And Vector, which is our more performant version and implementation of the Cardano chain, that's where everybody will be minting their tokens. That's where everybody from a UTXO side will be performing their DeFi applications and their protocols and products and things like that, smart contracts. And that'll be done in such a way that we improve the speed of finality to the chain, so that, rather than throughput of TPS and stuff like that, that's not too important as a metric. What's more important is that we have quicker finality on the chain, so that things are settled quicker in that DeFi side.
Yeah, I'd like to add just a few things. I mean, Chris, it'd be great if you send Marcus kind of a link for people to get started. We also have stake pool as a service providers. The other interesting thing we did, again, it's all benefit of hindsight, of course, right? So instead of a decentralized treasury and governance process, we put in the deed that the foundation must deploy capital to the ecosystem, and we created several different buckets. The first one is called, it's a perpetual ISPO, where projects can easily just get delegation and get started. So they get some funds and start working and make some money. Chris has worked on a lot of impact programs around this already. The next layer is a grant program, but that's more retroactive. Like if we see someone's done something well, we'll give them a grant. We also have a liquidity program, so we can inject liquidity into DEXs, get stable coins, and stable coins are a big part of what we're trying to achieve here. We know that's the lifeblood, the grease of an ecosystem, bridging between UTXO and EVM, all the stablecoin liquidity in the EVM world. Like just for example, on Binance Smart Chain, one protocol, Venus protocol, has like $200 million of stablecoins on it. That could easily flow through Apex Fusion. That's just one example of the way things go. So that's a big part of it. And then we also have a venture slash VC fund that is also has tokens allocated to it. So we're really looking at the whole life cycle to help the ecosystem and to maximize it. We also have a reputation system we're building where digital IDs could be interesting, Henrik, something to tie into, where we'll reward people that actually participate in our ecosystem. And then back to Chris's point about things. I mean, we're from the Cardano community, so we're doing things the same but slightly differently. We're solving the problems that we know exist today that I know Cardano will eventually solve, but we're doing it now, right? We're bringing stablecoin liquidity now. We're bringing scalability now through less decentralization. And then one tweak we did, because we knew it was a pain point in the Cardano community, and I'd love Kareem to give his 2 cents about this, is we brought min pool cost to zero, right? That was something that was a big headache in the Cardano community. A lot of people wanted it to be zero, and so we did that. So it's a great way to bring things to the Cardano community that they can't do on chain right now, because the train has already left the station to a lot of things, and we've kind of brought the train back to the station. So a lot of decisions we can make, we can take different routes and be very complementary to Cardano. And then ultimately, my grander vision towards the future is even deeper integration between the two protocols. But I'd love Kareem to give his 2 cents on the min pool costs. And yeah, that's, we're just giving examples of how Apex Fusion can bring value to Cardano. And then of course, once we bring our EVM chain out, bring value to Polygon, to Base, to BSC, to all the EVM chains as well. Go ahead, Kareem.
Do you have ETAs? Sorry to interrupt. Do you have ETAs for the Vector, for example?
Is that you mean testnet?
Yeah.
No, I think timeline, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, ETA, sorry.
Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I don't know why that didn't pop in my mind. So we haven't announced dates yet, but the launch on Cardano as a token is weeks away, and launch of Vector Nexus is in the single-digit months away. But we don't like to give an actual date until we're certain that it's actually going to launch on that date. So that's kind of where we're at. Prime launched in February.
But we'll have good presence at Rare Evo this year, so we've got a booth there. everyone's welcome to come along and see the tech and meet the team and stuff. And we'll have some special guests that people will be very familiar to the Cardano ecosystem as part of our extended partner team. And there we're going to give much more details about Vector, have some breakout sessions where people can understand a little bit more about what's possible there. The tech team will be there to sort of go through things, and we hope everyone can come along and see a bit more.
So quickly, if I introduce myself, I'm ex-IO. I spent time as an advisory consultant, really focusing on adoption, right, for governments and enterprise. That's my expertise. I'm a enterprise architect-led digital transformation consultant. Currently supporting Halate in Abu Dhabi, but also advising the council. And on the min pool fee, this was really interesting. One of the first Cardano SPOs is currently working with us very closely. His name is Praveen. And he noticed that this min pool fee issue came up, and we set it very high, and then realized that it would not help promote the decentralization of smaller independent stake pools. So we set it to 0, so to allow the smaller stake pools to build up, right? So by having it at 0, they're able to report a higher ROI, which will attract more delegators and so forth. So like Jerry said, the value of hindsight, being able to look back and see what we could have done differently and actually doing it differently. What we could have done differently on Cardano, we would like to change and doing that and really promoting that and listening to Henrik and Charles. It's really amazing. All the use cases we have that we know are going to be feasible on Apex Fusion that we know we could have done on Cardano. We would have loved to be able to do on Cardano, especially government digital transformation and things like that really will come to life. Especially, I like what you were saying, Henrik, about, we all tried to do digital identity and it didn't work because each government has its own way. I like to look at digital transformation from a perspective. I spent 11 years in Haiti, and I come from Lebanon, partially in Germany, partially. So I look at these governments that don't have the means to build systems, and I look at what we're building in blockchain as a means to decost their infrastructure. If you offer them a blockchain, they don't need to build data centers and protect with cybersecurity and so forth. All they need is a dApp. And in most cases, we would be able to support the design of the dApp at the foundation. And then, if they want to have their own private blockchain, we could spin off a copy of Vector or Nexus and allow them to have that. And then they'd be able to also to manage the privacy of their data while still having the settlement layer being prime. So they have the liquidity and they have the decentralization. So that's really our vision at Apex Fusion, really pushing for that. My role really around the venture is where the value is going to be. So how to build ventures, the venture studio. I did work in one in Abu Dhabi where we spun out a custodian that is funded by Abu Dhabi, one of the sovereign wealth funds. So that's a space that I'm really keen on developing at Apex Fusion.
Yeah, and also the cross-chain value creation is endless. You can think of tons of use cases. One thing I'm actually interested in when Vector gets up and it's running and we have a treasury that we can use is, let's say, for example, is a Catalyst project that did not get funding because of the way that this decentralized governance works, but is a popular project. In other words, the vast majority of the community would have loved to fund it, but didn't vote for it. That could be a great example where the Apex Fusion Foundation can fund it and say, hey, we're going to fund you, but you have to build on both. You build both on Cardano and on Vector, right? And then we can create these beautiful use cases where they work on both chains. Also, there's a lot of dApps in Cardano that have put a lot of investment into the UTXO Haskell technology, right? Porting it over to Apex Fusion is trivial. So you can, get an ROI on that investment that as other work, right? So these projects, World Mobile or Digital ID you spoke about, can easily port over, and technologically it's lightweight, it's not expensive, and it brings you a new community and possibly bridging over to the EVM landscape as well. So these are all the ways, and that's just I'm sure the community is going to come up with another 1,000 ways we can collaborate.
Wonderful.
I just want to add that so for the community, I host a podcast called Fusing the Unfusable. We've already published about 25 episodes. They're on YouTube, and I'd be glad to host some of you. Basically, we created this podcast to allow members of the community to come and speak about their projects, request certain things, maybe present some of their problems, and then people from the community can suggest solutions and vice versa.
Awesome. Do you want to share that link with us too, or with me?
Sure, I'll put it in the chat. It's called Fusing the Unfusable. It's on YouTube, but I'll share the link.
We're almost at the top of the hour. That flew by fast.
Yeah.
Very fast. It's amazing. Henrik, we usually have that at the end. What are your words as a founder, wise words as a founder that you want to share with your fellow co-founders?
From here to rest. You put me on the spot. Why you want me to ask something specific?
I think the first advice is don't do it.
That's true. What was a key moment for you that usually we as founders, we go through this tunnel, we have the tunnel view and we see, okay, this is what we want to build for. And then there comes this hole, right? And you just step through the dark because you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then there's this hole where you just tap into it and you say, oh, wow, that was it. Did you have such a moment where you said, okay, now my back really hurts, but I'm going to push through whatever it is?
Yeah, I think we're still in the hole. It's a young company, first-time founder, and we haven't raised any proper round yet. So living off from my Cardano personal ADA and like Catalyst funds. So trying to raise funds right now, but it's still in the hole. But we have faith. We move forwards.
Crossing my fingers for you. Crossing my fingers. And for those who don't know, watching this video, it's very, very hard to have the switch with a Thaler Prism, then to Identus, and then to Hyperledger, and it's been a ride. So you got my mental support. I know what you went through. Adam.
Same question.
Yes. Please.
All right. Being a founder, like you said, don't do it. You're gonna have a little sleep and a lot of stress. My advice is to be a bull, but a considerate bull. Like, think about it before you ram your horns into something. But you need to stand on your business. You need to stand on your belief and always remember why. Why did you start this? What drove you to open the door and do this? And stick to the foundation and the basics. I mean, anytime you get lost in any kind of role, I've always gone to the basics. I've gone back to the training manuals. I've gone back to my initial entry into the job, and it's like, okay, these are the stepping stones. So like, you got to kind of go back and constantly review the basics. And so that's my advice, is to be a bull, but be a considerate bull, because people want a leader, and leaders are bull-minded type of people.
Awesome. For me, next would be Karim. This is unfair because I'm poking three of you guys, so I'm pressing it now. I'm squeezing Apex.
I think if I was to keep it short, it's add value. You got to add value. If you're not adding value and optimizing continuously for your North Star, you can sail around in circles. So strategic alignment, knowing where you're headed, and always think of adding value, and then surround yourself with good people. No pricks allowed.
That's a good one. Always look up. Christopher.
Well, I think as a founder, people are in the rare category of of action. There's many people who will sit by, criticize, judge, give comments and stuff like that. But it's something to be recognized that it's doing something that the majority of people won't do, because as Jerry said, don't do it. That's because, not that you shouldn't do it, but it's tough, it's hard. And so I think it should be giving kudos to anyone who's attempting to do that, that it's moving something forward, trying to bring change in the world in whatever way that is. And the only thing I would say is that it's good to be kind to people as you're working through things, because you don't necessarily have to engage with everything. You don't have to fight with people. You don't have to do that. But if you can sort of keep your focus and not let your energy be distracted into areas where it's not needed, then you can go very, very far. For us, it's not. We've spoke about this a lot with our ethos of collaboration over competition. It's not how many bodies you can step on top of to reach where you are. It's how you can lift everybody up together so that everybody shares in the value.
Wonderful. Jerry.
Yeah, sure. I think besides don't do it, there's three main ingredients. There was you have to have vision, right? So there's a great analogy that when an airplane flies from one location to the other, 95% of the time it's not pointing in that direction, but it still gets there, right? So you have to have vision of where you want to go and know there's going to be circles and you're going to go around and you're going to get there. The next one is resilience. You have to be resilient because you're constantly taking a pounding, and there's lots of instances where your business is about to fail and you have to fix it and move on. And we met a few of those along the way, including Choke Point 2.0 last year, that choked our funding for a few months because our funds were stuck in a US bank that couldn't get over to where it needed to get to because the administration over here didn't want to endorse crypto. There's a few times where we almost failed, and you have to be resilient about that. And the last one is flexibility. You shouldn't pivot that often, right? But sometimes you have to, right? So you have to keep your vision, but if you find that it's not working, there's not the product market fit, it's not getting to where you need to get to, you can't do too many because too many you'll fail. But you have to pivot and be flexible at the right times when things aren't working. Those, I think, are kind of the big three ingredients that I see in being a successful founder.
Awesome. Davide, as you know, I always have to add something, but if you want to, go first.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, actually, no, I was impressed about the level of the conversation today. The founders were amazing. You guys gave us hope in the future about our ecosystem, because we need so different but strong projects to go forward. So I really stand on your side, guys.
Awesome. I'll add a tip for myself, from my experience. Have the courage to say no. That's a very important one to me that I had to learn. And especially when it comes to partnerships, not every partnership is valuable. And sometimes you find, especially in crypto, I think it is, it's a startup issue, but in crypto as well, if you have sometimes projects reaching out left and right for partnerships, and they need to match with you, either your ethos or your compliance. Might be completely open sourced, might be incorporated in agency life. This is a bit easier, but yeah, check those projects that are asking for partnerships. Be open, be friendly, as we heard already from Christopher, but be vigilant in the process. And yeah, that would be my closing remarks. And it was wonderful having you guys. Really, really, it was great. And wishing you lots of luck. And thank you. Hi, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Cool.
Hi, Marcos. Hi, guys.
And if you liked what we're doing, support us in the next Catalyst Fund. Always forget to say that.
You have to put your plug in. You have to. You got to do it.
Yeah.